introduce our resource person, Dr. Muhammad Shaheer Siddiqui, Associate Professor in Department of Education, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. Sir is working as an associate professor from 2021. Before that, from 2019 to 21, he was in Tezpur University. He was also associate professor. Before that, he was in Vishwa Bharati Shanti Niketan Central University, Shanti Niketan, from 2010 to 2019. And before that, he was a school teacher, assistant teacher in Khalil Higher Secondary School, Bareilly, a minority school, from 2001 to 2010. PG teacher economics in Radha Madhav Public School, Bareilly, from 1999 to 2000. Sir has a qualification of MA in economics, MA in English literature, MA philosophy, MAd, PhD in education, PG diploma, PG diploma modern Arabic, MA in translation studies, and his first area, or we can say area of specialization, is philosophy and history of education. He has presented 31 papers in national seminars and 18 papers in international conferences. Under his supervision, 4 PhD has been awarded and 6 research scholars are working under his guidance. He has supervised 28 MA dissertation and 9 MA dissertations. He has published his 20 research papers in journals, and under his credit, there are 3 edited books and 18 chapters in books. He has been regularly invited as a resource person in training programs and workshops organized by different organizations across India. With this brief introduction, I invite Shaheer sir for his lecture on the topic methods and terminology of IKS, that is Indian Knowledge System. Please, sir.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ashraf Sahab, for this elaborated introduction of mine. Actually, I don't deserve for this very wide introduction. I'm just a learner like you people. And today, I'm very much thankful HRDC, MMTTC, Aligarh Muslim University, as well as your college, who is organizing, IQAC cell, who is organizing this very important program on such an important topic, that NEP 2020 orientation. And this IKS is the part of NEP draft. So I am very much thankful to all of you, my senior colleagues, my all colleagues here, my friends, and the students, if they are also there. So we are all learner in this journey, and we are just trying to acquire from the different sources, because I'm not claiming that I have all the knowledge to my province. After at the end of this lecture, this is actually a discussion. You will all come to know that everything is in your jurisdiction, the intellectual jurisdiction, and you know it, that only sources are there to be excavated. And this IKS is, since one of the very important aspects and one of the important means, you can say that the part of NEP 2020. So in this broader context, we will just discuss this very important topic. Just let me share my slides, and then we will start our discussion. Just 1 minute. So I hope my slides are visible to all of you, and my voice is equally visible, equally audible. And if there is any issue in between, you may either inform me through a chat box or by opening your mic, because before me only the screen is there and I am unable to see all of you. So on another laptop, my slides are visible to me. So because due to the connectivity issue, there may be any disconnectivity, so just inform me in between. So let's begin our discussion, and I hope 53 participants have already joined. So without already, I'm running late by 5 or 8 minutes, or more than 8 minutes. So today's topic, what I have been giving is the Indian knowledge traditions, particularly the vocabulary and methods, and sometimes it is used as the terminology and methods. On the very outset, I would like to add that Indian knowledge tradition is basically, in Hindi, this term is used as Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. And in English, still we are using the term Indian knowledge system, IKS. But in Hindi, in government draft also, MMTC's syllabus is also, Bharatiya Gyan Parampara term is being used. Both refer to the same thing. The difference is only of traditions and the system. System involves some mechanism, some techniques, some systematic processes, and traditions involves the continuity from past to present, including the conventions, including the different modes of working in day-to-day life, and different sources of knowledge. So the difference is only technical, otherwise the content is same. So we would like to discuss all those things in this agenda, what I have set for today's talk, today's discussion. Vision of NEP 2020 and IKS. Within bracket, the T refers to traditions. And second one is the sources and literature. I think earlier one lecture is already done. I think yesterday or before yesterday by Professor Sajid Jamal Saab. So I hope that he has given you a broad view of the Indian knowledge traditions and Indian knowledge systems. And also he must have been included the different sources of Indian knowledge traditions, including the four Vedas and up to the modern age, what consists of. So we will not give more emphasis on the sources and literature. Third very important aspect is the vocabulary and terminology. Some selective vocabulary, I would like to mention these 5 or 6 from point A to point E. As per the syllabus, the prescribed syllabus provided by UGC as well as provided by MMTTC. So I would confine my talk only to the syllabus content. I would not try to deviate from the original discussion. So that's why in the very beginning I have set this agenda. And the fourth point of discussion would be the traces of pedagogy in ancient text. That refers to the methods. Methods in Indian knowledge traditions, they are all in the chronological way, because first we would understand the terminology and then we will move towards the pedagogy or methods in Indian knowledge traditions, how to reach towards the knowledge arena and how to achieve the different aspects of knowledge. So to begin with, the vision NEP 2020 and IKS, it's very clear because for the last, I think, 5-6 days, we all have been discussing, and I have been discussing for last 1.5 years and more than 1.5 years since I think 2020 when the draft was in discussion mode. So different aspects and thousands of discussions have already been done by the different stakeholders in this area, including the professors and different scientists and teachers and students and participants like you. So now it has I think, decided in our minds that what is the purpose of IKS. So why to waste our time in discussion all these aspects, because this is basically concerned with the original objectives of the national education policy. The single objective is the national development, and particularly this IKS deserves to be discussed in the context of realization of Indian knowledge traditions as a treasure of knowledge, so that we Indians, we students, we teachers feel pride in our knowledge treasures that begins with ancient Indian political, social, and spiritual and intellectual systems, and that is still continued, and that is still the part of the Indian intellectual traditions even today. So deep-rooted pride in being Indian is one of the very important aspects of IKS as a part of NEP 2020. So moving towards the next slide, understanding Indian knowledge traditions, because this part is very important to understand that what basically IKS is. So in order to understand, there are some assumptions or postulations. This is also one of the Indian methods, one of the Indian methods or traditions of knowledge. So I think I would like to know from your side whether I should be bilingual or I should use the two languages for the sake of convenience. Whatever you just give me. I think Dr. Ashraf can tell me better whether I should go bilingual or I should keep only in one language. What would be better? Should I use the two languages,
Yes, sir.
bilingual?
You can use
बिल्कुल अच्छा होगा सर, बिलिंगुअल
yeah,
ठीक रहेगा.
Okay, okay,
yes.
okay. Then I would try my best. So in that perspective, we see that the assumptions and postulations is also one of the important aspects of Indian knowledge traditions. So wherever it is necessary, we will discuss in English. Otherwise, we will discuss in bilingual mode. So language is not a problem here. For the understanding purpose, we see that the term within bracket, it is written as Bharatiya Drishti. That refers to the Indian way of looking at the things. किसी चीज को इस नजरिए से देखना कि वो क्या है, that is called the drishti. Drishti does not refer only to the vision. Drishti does not refer only to look at the things. Rather, many of the things cannot be seen only through eyes. These are not the eyes basically in philosophical terminology. These are not the eyes basically. This is mind that perceives. Perception is the function of mind. And to see is the perception. To see is one of the aspects of perceptions. When we use the term perceive includes all the activities of all the five sense organs. Perception does not include only the use of eyes. Perception includes only not only the function of eyes, but also it is a amalgamated or the combined effect of combined function of all the five sense organs, or at least more than two, like what we hear, what we see, what we touch, what we feel, or what we sometimes interpret. So this entire activity is known as the perception. So drishti here refers not to visualize the thing, rather drishti here refers to perceive the things. And when we use the term Bharatiya Drishti, तो इसका मीनिंग क्या है, इसका मायना क्या है? इसका मायना यह है कि सिर्फ चीजों को देखना ही नहीं, उन चीजों को कॉन्टेक्चुअलाइज करना, इस संदर्भ में द थिंग्स आर डिफाइंड, उसका बैकग्राउंड क्या है, उसकी वस्तु स्थिति क्या है, उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या है, किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में उसको कहा जा रहा है, और फिर उसका कॉम्परेटिव एलिमेंट क्या है. तो ये तमाम चीजें मिल करके भारतीय दृष्टि बनती है, किसी चीज को देखने का एक नजरिया. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड द फिलोसॉफिकल वे. इंडियन नॉलेज ट्रेडिशंस is based on this assumption that Indian way of looking at the thing is unique and it is guided by a particular philosophy. And that philosophy is based on how we form our perception to look at the things. That is based on the philosophy. And that philosophy is what? That philosophy is based on that vast treasure of Indian knowledge that brings our understanding, our intellectualism towards from inner to the outer aspect. So in that way, there are the three things, Gyan, Vigyan, and Jivan Darshan. These three things are very important to define the Indian knowledge traditions. Gyan refers to knowledge. Actually, knowledge is not the exact translation of the term Gyan. Knowledge here means, Gyan here means what you know, and your journey from a state where you don't know towards that point where you know, you come to know. This refers to the cognition. Anything which comes to your mind in the form of an idea, in the form of a concept, in the form of an image of an object, that refers to Gyan. And then Vigyan, when you specialize this particular knowledge, specializes this particular knowledge. For example, the knowledge of medicine, it is Vigyan. The knowledge of archery, this is Vigyan. Any specialized knowledge in one of the very important books written during Guptan period, during the period of the contemporary of Kalidasa was Amar Singh. He composed the first book that is called the encyclopedia, the first, you may call the dictionary, the first dictionary in the history of intellectual revolution on this earth was first composed by Amar Singh. That he was contemporary of Kalidasa during the period of Guptan period. In that Amar Kosh, composed by Amar Singh, Amar Kosh, the term Vigyan is defined as Vishesh Gyan, some specialized knowledge. So Vigyan here refers when we specialize our ordinary knowledge, it becomes the Vigyan. And Gyan and Vigyan is unique in a way when it is mixed with the Jivan Darshan. Jivan Darshan here refers to the philosophy of life. And Indian philosophy is practical in the sense that whatever we perceive, we try to correlate it with the phenomena of nature, phenomena, what we perceive outside our internal nature, but it means what is there in the universe, who has created this one, what forces are running, what forces are responsible behind this, the broader questions of man's understanding, the broader questions of man's curiosity. So that forms a particular way of looking at the life. That forms the Jivan Darshan. That is the Bharatiya Drishti. For example, if you do a work and you don't believe that whatever I'm doing, what will be the effect? If you don't believe in this statement that whatever I am doing, it will have no effect. Suppose this is the situation that you have a belief that whatever I am doing, there will be no effect. Then why we will do our any task if we are not motivated by the results? So that's why Indian philosophy is basically based on the outcome of your work, whatever we do. That is called the Karma Siddhant. Whatever a person does at present, that will definitely produce some fruits in future. And that particular way of looking at the outcome of an action forms a philosophy of life that is known as the Karma Siddhant. So normally we say in our day-to-day life, if we do the good things, the outcome would be good. If we do the evil things, the outcome would be bad or the negative. That would not good for the future generation. So this becomes a Bharatiya Drishti. This becomes the Indian way of looking at it. This is called a Jivan Darshan. In the same way, if we help the poor, normally we see that if you help and if you don't tell anybody, that action of good deeds will give you benefit in some later times. Sometimes it happens that we all of a sudden come across an accident and we are saved by some unknown forces. So we are unable to believe that who has saved our life. Then often we discuss in our family that obviously we have done some good deeds with someone. That's why our life was saved in such a tremendous accident. So this is the Bharatiya Drishti. We always believe in some unknown forces that they are active and they help us in the time of calamity. So these are the things I'm just giving you some examples like that, the Bharatiya Drishti. In the same way, the third point, you see that the tradition of validating and putting into practice has impacted our education, arts, administration, law, justice, health, manufacturing, and commerce. These are all the areas of Indian knowledge traditions, and everywhere we follow a particular Bharatiya Drishti, particular Jivan Darshan, particular way of looking at the things. For example, in the court of law, you often see an idol who is holding a balance, एक तराजू पकड़े हुए है, और उसके माथे पर आंख पर एक पट्टी बंधी हुई है. अब तो शायद वो पट्टी हटा दी गई है, और तराजू का एक पल्ला जो है वो बराबर है, ऊपर नीचे नहीं है, और उसकी आंखों पर पट्टी है. So that refers, what does it indicate? This is the symbolism. Symbolism that all are equal in the eyes of law. That's why that black ribbon indicates that law does not distinguish between one person and another person. That's why there is eyes are closed. It doesn't mean that the law is blind. कानून अंधा है, ये meaning नहीं है. इसका मीनिंग ये है कि आंख पर पट्टी है, इसका मतलब हम डिस्टिंक्शन नहीं करते. दिस इज द भारतीय दृष्टि, इज द इंडियन philosophy. Please keep your mic off. And in the same way, if you just go to any hospital, you see that on the walls there's written सर्वे संतु निरामया, and सभी लोग जो है वो निरोगी हो जाएं, सर्वे संतु सुखिना, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिना. So these are the old Indian traditions, old Indian statements which appear in the Vedas, appear in the Upanishads, we follow in our day-to-day life. In the same way, you see that Indian emblem, national emblem, is written that comes from
मानसी मैम म्यूट कर लीजिए. मानसी मैम अपना माइक म्यूट कर लीजिए. मानसी मैम.
So in our day-to-day life, we often see that in one way or other way, we are following some etiquette, some manners, some regulations that control our life, that control our thinking, whether it's the area
मानसी मैम म्यूट कर लीजिए अपने आप को.
मानसी मैम ऑफ करें अपने आप को, म्यूट कीजिए अपने आप को. मानसी मैम,
I think she is not.
होस्ट रिमूव कर दीजिए प्लीज.
कंट्रोल रूम से म्यूट कर दीजिए.
Yes, okay.
She's removed.
Thank you very much. So in that way, we see that in every arena of life, whether it's the court, whether it's hospitals, whether it is administration, even whether in arts also you see, and also we have conceptualized, or we have a belief that in Indian philosophy or Indian traditions, every art of knowledge is bestowed by some deities. That's why in Indian traditions it is considered that Devi Saraswati is the deity that controls and patronizes the arts, the music, and knowledge. In the same way, you see that education, Devi Saraswati. In the same way, in the areas of economics, in the areas of commerce, in the areas of the monetary systems, we follow the Devi Lakshmi. This is our philosophy, that every area is protected by some gods, by some deities. In the same way, if you just sometimes have you ever visited to the walls of a police station, you see that one statement is written, the Sanskrit shloka taken from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, on the walls of the police station, and that says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkatam. What does it mean? This couplet is very famous. This shloka is very famous, taken from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This is the ideology that becomes the motto or the basis of the Indian police administration. So this is the Bharatiya Drishti, how you look at the things and how you perceive this entire world, the society around you. In that way, you design and redesign and orient and reorient our actions according to some philosophy, according to some ideologies, according to some statements. We just take it as our what you call the benchmarks for understanding, for taking our actions. So this is all called the Bharatiya Drishti. कोई भी ऐसा काम नहीं है कि जिसके लिए कोई मोटिवेटिंग फोर्स ना हो, चाहे वो कोई स्टेटमेंट हो, चाहे वो कोई टेक्स्ट हो, रिलीजियस टेक्स्ट हो, या किसी का आदर्श हो, किसी का आइडियल हो. अब देखते हैं इन इंडिया ऑल्सो ऑलमोस्ट ऑल द पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैव सम आइडियल्स. जैसे आप देखें, some political parties follow the idea of socialism, some ideas follows the nationalism, some political parties follow the idea of secularism, some follow the humanism. कहते हैं कि हम ये कोई इज्म नहीं मानते हैं, हम तो मानवतावादी हैं, हम इंसानों की बात करते हैं. Actually, these all ideas are reflected in Indian knowledge traditions. Indian knowledge traditions talks about secularism, it talks about nationalism, it talks about socialism, it talks about even the humanism, the spiritualism. So everyone is guided by some of the perceptions, the way of looking at the things. So this is the very basis, the assumptions, the postulations of Indian knowledge traditions, that it is always guided by uh, some Jivan Darshan, some Bharatiya Darshan. This is the basic assumption. And now we can define the term knowledge of India in this sense includes knowledge from ancient India and its successes and challenges, and a sense of India's future aspirations, specific to education, health, environment, indeed all aspects of life. Means not only in some people are of the view that Indian knowledge traditions is just the name of the Sanskrit literature or Vedas or Upanishads. Here in the very beginning, I'm trying to explain that these were transmitted through textual, oral, and artistic traditions in almost all the arenas, including arts, administration, law, justice, and so on. Now, we will not talk about this is a time scale major knowledge movements starting from Rig Vedic period to. I have divided these three periods when Indian knowledge traditions developed and it disseminated towards the later centuries. पहला पीरियड है श्रुति पीरियड, इसको इसलिए कहा जाता है क्योंकि इस पीरियड का जो लिटरेचर है बेसिकली वो जनरेशन टू जनरेशन ट्रांसफॉर्म होता है एक जनरेशन से दूसरी जनरेशन में बाय वे ऑफ ओरल ट्रेडिशंस, बाय वे ऑफ लिसनिंग. तो ये पूरा लिटरेचर बाद में कंपोज किया गया, पहले इसको याद किया गया, मेमोराइज किया गया. तो ये श्रुति पीरियड कहलाता है, ऋग्वेद से लेकर बियॉन्ड वैदिक पीरियड 600-300 BC. The 6th century first Renaissance, why it is called, because it was the period when earlier philosophical schools and earlier traditions and ideologies were challenged by some people, including the Jain and Buddhist schools, by Karvakas, by Mauryans, by Guptans. During this period, not by Mauryans and Guptans, but these were the periods when knowledge establishes its own specific areas, specializations. वहीं पर वर्ड विज्ञान जो है वो कॉइन किया गया. Knowledge becomes specialized here during Mauryan periods and particularly in the Guptan periods. तो साइंस का जो वर्ड है, विज्ञान का जो टर्म है, बेसिकली वो अमरकोश में आता है पहली बार. हालांकि ट्रेसेस ऑफ विज्ञान स्पेशलाइज्ड नॉलेज वाज ऑलरेडी देयर इवन ड्यूरिंग द वैदिक पीरियड, लाइक इन द फॉर्म ऑफ आयुर्वेदा, in the form of धनुर्वेदा, in the form of you see Gandharva Veda and Shilpa Veda. These four were the specialized branches of knowledge that comes out of the Rig Vedas. So in that way, but the term was coined during the Guptan period in Amarkosh, the Vigyan, Vishesh Gyan. So Mauryans, during Mauryans period, you see one of the very important book in Indian literature, Indian knowledge traditions was composed by the Chanakya, that is called Vishnu Gupta, or you may also call the Kautilya. He composes a book named Arthashastra. This is not a book of economics, as the very name suggests, but it's a book of public administration that talks about the administrative principles and the rules and regulation, what a king should do, and the principles of political economy in that sense. And also it talks about the international relations, because during that time, during the period, the international relations were established with the Greeks, with that of Indian counterparts. And one person from the Greece was sent to India as an ambassador, and the name of that person was Megasthenes. He also composed one book during that period, that is Indica. Indica also talks about contemporary Indian administration. So these two books are the part of Indian knowledge traditions, also Indica as well as Arthashastra by Kautilya, and that has very deeper weightage to be paid by later authors. They take the instances of Indian administration from Kautilya. Even today, this is one of the reference books for many. And then the important aspect of this period was that questions were formed, and they were challenging the old epitomes, old ideologies, and the old dogmas, and they were establishing their own. So in that process, various schools emerged. Many schools of philosophy emerged. Various schools of ideology emerged in both Jainism and Buddhism, as well as on the basis of the Vedic philosophy, and on the basis of those philosophies which do not have their origin in the Vedic philosophy. In all, 6 schools were formed, and later 3 schools were later added: Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Mimamsa, Vedanta. And later on, Jain school, Buddhist school, and the Karvak schools, they were all added. So in all, 9 schools came in vogue, came in existence. That's why this period is known as the 6th century, first Renaissance, because men started thinking about the knowledge revolution. And then a Smriti period. Smriti is based on why it is called the Smriti and why this term is called the Shruti period. Shruti is when a student is listening, attending to the lectures of the teachers, and he is or she is sometimes, because in the Gurukuls only boys were there, so normally we use the term he. The student was listening. There are some instances that girls students were also there. They were called the Brahmavadini. Though not in the Gurukuls, but at home they used to get the education. They were called the Brahmavadinis. Shruti period and Smriti period. Smriti books are based on the memory. Whatever you have already heard, and you recall it, recollect your ideas, and then you compose some rules and regulations for the society. So this third period started in 200 AD and up to 600 AD. Manusmriti is one of the ancient Smritis. To the Deval Smriti is last of all the Smritis. We will discuss about it in later slides. Now, sources and literature. Quickly, I will just pass on these the slides. Shruti literature is basically composed in the 4 quadrants. You can say Samhitas, Brahmanas, Arnyakas, and Upanishads. Last part of this Shruti literature is the philosophical discourses. Upanishads are based on the philosophical discourses, where only the pure reasoning, pure logic, and dialogism and arguments are the methods on the basis of which certain mystical aspects of life, mystical aspects of universe were discussed, and they were composed and compiled by way of. So normally Upanishads are the discussions between teacher and student. So the content is highly philosophical discourses are there, as compared to the earlier books like Rig Veda, where we find only the Richai or the couplets or the mantras in praise of the deities, in praise of the gods, which are normally assumed that they are holding this universe, like Indra, like Varun, like Usha, like Aditi. So these were the gods which were assumed that they are holding the universe. And Brahm is the ultimate source of all the creation. Whatever has been created in this universe, the ultimate source is the Brahma. So that's why in the very beginning, it was conceptualized that the life is divided into the four, you can say the sections, or you can say Varnashrama, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And in that way, Brahmans are those people who have realized the Brahm. That's why the Brahm Gyan jinko ho gaya hai, wo Brahman hai. So there, because in the earlier, this is not called as the caste system, rather the society was divided on the basis of the functions or the activities. Which section has to do which kind of activity. So in the very beginning, 4 kinds of activities were of prime importance. The teaching was there, business was there, and protecting the society and kingdom was there, and 4th one was the service to the entire society. So on that basis, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra were conceptualized. So in this slide, we will not discuss this aspect, only the introduction of this Shruti literature. And you see that Smriti and Dharma Shastra, the most important aspect is the last line of this particular slide. Subject of Smriti books. All Smritis are there, Yagvalka Smriti, Manu Smriti to the Deval Smriti you see here. But their subject matter is very important. You see contemporary political system. उस समय में, उस वक्त में क्या शासन व्यवस्था थी, सोशियो इकोनॉमिक ट्रेडिशंस क्या थे, सामाजिक और आर्थिक परंपराएं क्या हैं, एथिक्स और मॉरलिटी कैसे डिफाइन होगी, हाउ वी कैन कॉल समथिंग एज मॉरल, समथिंग एज एथिकली राइट और रॉन्ग, कंडक्ट क्या होगा, व्यवहार क्या होगा, किस तरह से समाज में जो रूल्स दिए जाते हैं हमको, वेदर इट्स इन फैमिली, वेदर इट्स इन आवर प्रोफेशनल लाइफ, हाउ टू बिहेव, what should be the direction of our conduct. Even today we talk about the conduct, professional ethics, we talk about professionalism in every profession. You see, the medical ethics are there, environmental ethics are there, In the same way, you see that the in teaching professions where the professional ethics, in also in the while doing the research ethics are there. And in that way, every profession demands a particular kind of conduct. So that was always there. It's not nothing new. So the subject matter of the books are entirely the social and social, moral, ethical, philosophical, you may call it. Vidhi Vidhan, what kind of rules and regulation will be formed to run the society, religious obligations, social systems. Actually, in Indian philosophy, religious obligations are not the two things. Religion itself means obligations. Religion doesn't mean, as we often define in the context of West, that religion is something, the organized form of worshipping some deity with a book, with a system, with a prophet. This is the way how West defines the term religion. But in Indian context, the term dharma is used for religion. However, religion is not the right translation of the term dharma. Dharma refers to obligation. Dharma refers to essence. Dharma refers to the conduct which is demanded, which is the behavior which is demanded as according to your status. Status means whatever responsibility you have been given. If you are a teacher, your dharma is to teach. If you are a scientist, your dharma is to use the scientific principles for the benefit of entire mankind. If you are a trader, then your dharma is to provide and produce the things for the benefit of society. If you are a father, your dharma is to protect the family. In the same way, if you are a mother, the same thing is there. So dharma is the obligations, your responsibilities, your way of behavior. In the same way, dharma is the basic essence of nature. The dharma of fire is heat and light. The dharma of water is providing the some calmness. जैसे पानी का धर्म है शीतलता, आग का धर्म है गर्मी या रोशनी देना, उजाला देना. So in that sense, dharma is defined here. The terminology is very important. That's why. In the same way, you see, in order to understand this entire scenario of knowledge, what is there in Vedas, and how to understand these books, how to read those books, it is not. It doesn't mean that if we know Sanskrit and we can hold all the knowledge of Vedas just by knowing the Sanskrit. Sanskrit is just a language, but until anybody can learn this language, but it doesn't mean that he has become the authority on Veda. ऐसे Arabic जान लेने से nobody can become the authority on Quran. In the same way, if you know the English, you may not be the authority on Shakespeare or Milton. There are some other etiquettes to enter into the knowledge traditions. So in the same way, Sanskrit is just a language in which this Sanskrit knowledge system was composed. But in order to understand the Vedas and Vedic Richaye, in order to understand what is there in the Upanishads, in order to understand what is there in the epics, we have to follow certain etiquettes and manners. So that's why, for example, the pronunciation is very important aspect while describing any knowledge tradition, whether it's Quran or whether it's Bhagavad Gita, whether it's Rig Veda, whether it's Bible. So phonetics, science of phonetics was known as the Shiksha. So 6 Vedangas were composed. Why they are called the Vedangas? Because they are basically considered as the Angas or the limbs or the organs of Vedas, without which, for example, human body cannot work without the Angas, without the limbs, without the organs. In the same way, Rig Veda is a body, but without the limbs, without the organs, it cannot work. So in the same way, these are considered as the organs of to understand the Vedas. Like Shiksha is the science of phonetics, art of pronunciation. Kalpa rituals, that is something which is considered with a measurement or in the form of sutras. Vyakaran, that grammar. Nirukta, etymology. Chandas, the meters or the poetic diction. And Jyotish or astronomy, something which is considered the time. So all these Vedangas are very important literature, the part of literature, Vedic literature, which were composed alongside with the Shruti literature. So this also consists of the Indian knowledge traditions. Apart from Vedic literature, in the later period, you see, vast literature was also composed over the time, An outline is given on your screen, starting from the Vedic text and up to the medieval period in Sufis and saints. They also interpreted that ancient knowledge, and they also materialized it in their practical way of disseminating the ancient knowledge traditions. And also you see in Bhakti traditions beyond Shankaracharya, you see starting from 7th century Shankaracharya to up to the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 16th century, and then by the cross-cultural elements of Sufis and Greek elements and Iranian elements and Afghani elements and Chinese elements. So many other things entered into Indian knowledge traditions, and they contributed in their own way. So starting from the Vedic text up to the translation works of ancient texts during Mughal period, during Delhi Sultanates, and even during the British period, they all added the richness of Indian knowledge tradition. So that's why this Indian knowledge tradition is a very vast treasure of knowledge, where you cannot confine it only to a particular era of history, neither it is confined to a particular religion, nor it is confined to a very small part of the vast history of 5,000 years. Over the time, cross-cultural elements, cross-cultural effects, the contribution of different cultures, contribution of different people across the nations, across the religion, across the traditions, across the cultures, they contributed it by one way or the other. So that's why it's a very vast arena of knowledge. Now coming towards our main discussion today, vocabulary and terminology. First and foremost thing here, whatever we are going to discuss or we have been discussing so far, it refers to darshan, it refers to philosophy. But in Indian context, you see that philosophy as religion is not the exact translation of the term dharma. In the same way, philosophy is not the exact translation of the term darshan. In Indian context, it is called darshan. And philosophy is a Western word. Philosophy here refers to law plus soul. My student.
सिमी मैम म्यूट कर लीजिए सिमी मैम
सिम्मी मैम
तो हम देखते हैं कि वेस्ट में जैसे फिलॉसफी का मीनिंग है फिलॉस प्लस सोफिया, लव और पैशन फॉर नॉलेज, ज्ञान के लिए एक पैशन होना, एक तरीके का नशा होना सिर्फ ज्ञान के लिए. और if you have acquired all the knowledge, then you have become the philosopher. If you have argumentative power, if you can put your arguments in a very effective way using very articulated language, and you can debate, you are having very good communication power with logical deductions, and all such things are the elemental to a philosopher in the context of West. So in the philosophy, when we talk the term philosophy, it is intellectual enterprise. There are certain branches of philosophy are there: epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, logics, and so on. They use the scientific methods. This world is the limit, because Western philosophy is limited to this world only. This is the main difference between Indian world darshan and philosophy, that Western philosophy is confined only to this world. This world is the limit. They don't talk beyond this world. But darshan here refers in Indian context. Darshan means when by which the ultimate reality is seen, subject to realization. जहां पर आपको realize हो जाए चीजों को. जैसे आपने दीवार पर लिखा आग, तो आप पढ़े लिखे हो गए, आपने पढ़ भी लिया, आपने लिख भी लिया, but you could not understand the essence of fire. आग लिखने से अगर उसका एसेंस आपको समझ में आता, तो आग लिखने से आग लग जाना चाहिए, तो क्यों नहीं लगी? It means you are very far away from the essence of this term fire. ऐसा होता नहीं हालांकि, for understanding ऐसा नहीं है कि आप लिखेंगे आग लग ही जाना चाहिए. But the important thing is, जैसे in the very beginning I told you that the essence, the dharma of anything is its essence. So realization is something which is actually the meaning of any object. Meaning is what? Meaning is you just use some symbol to identify your particular object. जैसे मैंने कहा कि in my hand, अब इसको आपने अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए कह तो दिया कि ये मोबाइल है, या इसको आपने कह दिया सेल फोन है, या आप इसने इसको स्मार्टफोन कह दिया, तो दीज आर मैरिली द वर्ड्स। अगर आप कहें मोबाइल है, तो मोबाइल का मतलब ही मोबाइल नहीं होता है। मोबाइल का मतलब कोई भी ऐसी चीज जो इधर से उधर जा सकती है, वो मोबाइल है। तो वो कोई भी चीज हो सकती है, मोबाइल वैन भी तो होती है, इसी कुछ ही मोबाइल पर। फॉर अंडरस्टैंडिंग वी जस्ट हैव सम सिंबलाइज्ड, वी हैव सम सिंबल्स। जैसे आपने कहा सेल, तो सेल का मीनिंग कॉन्टेक्चुअलाइज्ड है। एक सेल वो है जो आप सेल फोन के लिए यूज करते हैं। वन सेल इज इन द सेंस, जैसे आप यूज करते हैं, अगर आप साइंस के स्टूडेंट है तो सेल हियर रिफर्स टू द स्मॉलेस्ट पार्ट ऑफ ए टिश्यू बॉडी में। बायोलॉजिकली सेल का वो मीनिंग होता है। अगर आप लॉ सिस्टम में हैं तो सेल का मीनिंग प्रिजन भी होता है। और अगर आप नॉर्मली मार्केट में जा रहे हैं, आप कहें कि एक सेल दे दीजिए, तो वो घड़ी का सेल भी हो सकता है। तो एक ही वर्ड के बहुत सारी मीनिंग है। इफ यू कॉन्टेक्चुअलाइज, यू कैन टेक योर मीनिंग अकॉर्डिंग टू योर रिक्वायरमेंट, योर नीड। तो रियलाइजेशन यही है कि विच वर्ड्स आर नॉट द एग्जैक्ट, नॉट द एब्सोल्यूट नॉलेज ऑफ ए पर्टिकुलर ऑब्जेक्ट। एक ही वर्ड के हजारों मीनिंग होते हैं। तो दे आर जस्ट द सिंबल्स टू आइडेंटिफाई one thing or to distinguish one object from another object, but essence तो something different। उसका जो मायना है, उसका जो अर्थ है, उसका जो एसेंस है, वो तो कुछ और होगा। तो दर्शन का मतलब है उस अर्थ को रियलाइज कर लेना। दैट्स व्हाई इट्स रिटन हियर, बाय विच द अल्टीमेट रियलिटी इज सीन सब्जेक्ट टू रियलाइजेशन। दैट्स व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड दर्शन। आपने दृश्य, आपने देख लिया। दार्शनिक इज अ सेंट। दैट्स वेरी फंडामेंटल रिक्वायरमेंट इन इंडियन फिलॉसफी, that a darshanik is a saint, but in West you don't have to become a saint. You don't have to become an ascetic. So life is darshan, practical or applied aspect. So in Indian context, philosophy is something which is practical. In the very beginning, we have discussed that Bharatiya Drishti. ये भारतीय दृष्टि यही है कि we are all practical, we are all applied, we all applied certain principles to look at the world, to look at the phenomena, to look at the people, to look at the outcomes and so on. The entire cosmos, time and space, civilization, in practice, just matter of darshan. Darshan is not confined only to this world. Rather, it goes beyond the limit of this world. That's why in Indian philosophy, Bharatiya Darshan, we talk about two types of knowledge. One is called aparavidya and another is paravidya. Aparavidya, that is confined to the worldly knowledge, and paravidya, that is beyond this world. That's why we also talk about not only this physical body that is visible to all, we also talk about that body which is not visible but which exists. That is called Atma, that is called soul. So we at the same time talk about Sharir and Atma. Both things are visible world and invisible world. So this is the very difference of the philosophy and darshan. The first aspect of terminology is this one. Now on this basis, we have formed the 9 schools of philosophy. Basically, these 6 are based on the Astic. They are called the Astic darshan because they have their origin in the Vedas. That's why. Orthodox doesn't mean the backward. Rather, Astic darshans are those darshan. And Astic has nothing to, the term Astic and Nastic, nothing to do in philosophical terms with the whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God. It has nothing to do with this philosophical schools. Here, Astic darshan means those schools of philosophy which have their roots, which have their origin in the Vedas, and heterodox and Gnostic darshan, which don't believe in the roots of Vedas. They have their independent origin. Like Swatantric, Vaibhashik, and Yogacharya comes from Buddhism. And Madhyamika, Shambhara, Digambar, they come from the Jainism. Madhyamik also Buddhism. Digambar, Digambar comes
नजरी
from
सर
Jainism.
म्यूट कर लीजिए,
And
नजरी सर,
Buddhism from
नजरी
the
सर माइक म्यूट कर लीजिए,
So,
नजरी सर,
please
नजरी
speak
सर
the
माइक कर लीजिए.
mic. So, important vocabulary and terms related to pedagogy. Here we talk about dharma, punya, atma, karma, yajna, shakti, varna, jati, moksha, loka, dhan, itihas, puran. These are the terms. Because in this very limited time, we cannot discuss all these terms, but I'm just giving you a glimpse of the glossary of Indian knowledge tradition, so that you or we may not be confused while discussing in the later terms. The purpose of this discussion is that we should be very clear in our mind that when we discuss the Indian knowledge traditions, all our arguments will be in vain if we are not acquainted with the original terminology. Sometimes it happens, I give you one example, कि अगर हम we are talking about the religion and we don't know the meaning of dharma in Indian context, and we are talking about Indian religion. So our discussion would be a waste of time, because dharma and religion are two different. In Indian knowledge traditions, dharma means differently. In a different way, how you define, as I already explained you. In the same way, loka. One term is lok. Lok and parle. These are the two terms. In the same way, you see the atma, that is the self. There is a difference between atma and atma. Atma refers to soul, that is called in Arabic ruh, spirit, and atma refers to self. Atma Gyan. Atma Gyan does not refer to the Gyan of Atma. Atma Gyan means to know about self, आपके बारे में, about your existence. And Atma is something which is the part of Paramatma. So in that way, the difference in the same way, Punya and Pap, Yagna, Shakti, Varna, and Jati. These are the terms. Jati is not the exact word which is used for the caste. Caste is a different perception, different interpretation. But Jati is something different. And Varna is something, it refers to color sometimes. And Varna is, it was the professional division of the society into four parts: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, in that context in ancient India. But in later Vedic period, Varna refers to a person who is born to a family of a Brahman. He would be known as Brahman. So Varna became on the basis of the birth. But in the very early period, in Vedic time, Varna means the profession what you adopt, the responsibility what you take on. है ना, that ब्राह्मण का काम था पढ़ाना. तो बाद में जो भी ब्राह्मण के घर में जिसका जन्म हो, वही ब्राह्मण कहलाने लगा, भले ही वो पढ़ाता हो या ना पढ़ाता हो, उसको ज्ञान हो या ना हो. लेकिन ब्राह्मण उसको कहते हैं जिसको ब्रह्म का ज्ञान है, मतलब अल्टीमेट नॉलेज जिसको रियलाइज हो गई. तो उस सेंस में, इसलिए इन सारे टर्म्स को समझना बहुत जरूरी है. इन द सेम वे, आई एम जस्ट गिविंग यू द ग्लिम्स ऑफ द टर्मिनोलॉजी. तीन तरह के कर्म हैं इंडियन फिलॉसफी में. एक संचित कर्म है, प्रारब्ध कर्म है, संचयमान कर्म है. जब आप कर्म करते हैं तो हमें पता भी नहीं होता है कि कर्म हमारा कहाँ जाएगा, किस फॉर्म में. जैसे बैंक में आप जाते हैं तो देयर आर 3 टाइप्स ऑफ डिपॉजिट्स. एक फिक्स डिपॉजिट होता है, एक रिकरिंग डिपॉजिट होता है ना. इसी तरह से एक शायद और डिपॉजिट किसी तरह का होता है जिसमें इन्वेस्ट वगैरह करते हैं, शेयर मार्केट वगैरह का. तो ऐसे ही कर्मा इज लाइक एन इन्वेस्टमेंट. व्हाट वी डू, वट एवर वी डू, दैट में वी आर जस्ट होल्डिंग आवर कर्मा. हम कर रहे हैं लेकिन हमें पता नहीं, वी हैव नॉट स्टिल रियलाइजिंग द फ्रूट्स ऑफ दिस कर्मा. तो ये संचित है. प्रारब्ध है कि जो कर्म हमने किए हैं और उनका फल मिलना शुरू हो गया. जैसे आपने पैसा इन्वेस्ट किया कहीं पर और उसका इंटरेस्ट आना शुरू हो गया, तो प्रारब्ध हो गया, प्रारब्ध कर्म. जवाहरलाल नेहरू का एक स्टेटमेंट याद आता है. व्हेन इंडिया गॉट इंडिपेंडेंस, ही यूजेस दिस टर्म, ट्राइस्ट विद डेस्टिनी, प्रारब्ध से सामना. तो प्रारब्ध कहते हैं, ये भारतीय दर्शन का शब्द है, प्रारब्ध. ट्राइस्ट विद डेस्टिनी, डेस्टिनी का मतलब है ट्राइस्ट. अब हमने जो कर्म किए थे, अब हमें उनका फल मिलना शुरू हो गया. दैट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ द ट्राइस्ट विद डेस्टिनी. So prarabdha karmas are those karmas, whatever you have done in the past and you have started realizing the fruits of your karmas. And sanchit, you have deposited the karma, neki kar darya mein dal wali baat hai. Still you have not started realizing the fruits of those karmas. They are still deposited in your accounts. Sanchayaman is whatever we are doing today, and we will realize the fruits in some future date. So these two are not in our hands, first and second, but third one is in our hand. If we have to mend our future, then we can mend our ways while doing the karmas at present. That is the Sanchayam. So this is the philosophy in Indian traditions that three types of karmas are there. Two are not in our hand, that is done, gone, bygone. कहते हैं ना कि जो हुआ सो हुआ. लेकिन third one is in our hand. We can still have opportunity to mend our ways in the future. Another aspect is four purusharthas are there. The entire system of life was based on the four objectives of life, four aims of life. This is one of the important terminology. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. These four are the objectives of life. Everywhere in the world, कहीं पर भी आप चले जाएं, यही four objectives हैं life. In any tradition, in any religion, in any system, in any society. These four are the basic objectives of life. You may define in your own way. So dharma is responsibilities. Artha is to make the life means some resources, to generate the resources, artha, and kama, something to make the life pleasurable, and moksha, to get salvation, to get freedom, to get something which liberate your life from the bondages. Various types of bondages are there, maybe social, maybe psychological, maybe emotional, maybe spiritual. Various types of salvations are there. And these bondages are known as the dukkha in Indian philosophy, that is sorrows. Three types of dukkhas are there. Three types of sorrows are there. What are those? These are the bondages basically. जिससे मुक्ति का नाम मोक्ष है, salvation है. अधिदैविक, अधिभौतिक and adhyatmic. Adhibhautik are something, those dukkhas, those sorrows which are concerned with our physical life, the life, with the something which we have done, and out of our actions, if we sorrow, that type of sorrow is known as the adhibhautik. जैसे आपने ह्यूमन बीइंग ने, इंसानों ने कोई पुल बनाया और वो गिर गया, हजारों लोग मर गए, तो उससे जो दुख हुआ वो अधिभौतिक है. कहीं पर पैसा हमने कमाया और चोरी हो गया, उससे जो दुख हुआ वो अधिभौतिक है. तो ऑल आवर एक्शंस, if they are responsible for any kind of sorrow, that sorrow is known as the adhibhautik, and this kind of dukkha or sorrow is concerned with this lok, this earth, this physical world. Adhidevik is not in our hand. That sometimes can be controlled, sometimes it is beyond our control, like earthquake, like a fire of a forest, like a storm, like tsunami. They are guided by some deviye आपदा जिसको आप कहते हैं. So these sorrows are categorized in adhidevik. And some adhyatmic. Adhyatmic dukkhas are those which are related to the questions of greater nature, like questions of life and death, question of the deities, question of gods, question of soul, question of inner peace, question of violence. Different types of questions that make human beings restless, and the answers are to be excavated. And for the excavation of the answers, for discovery of the answers of such questions, such sorrows, he roams here and there. महात्मा बुद्ध डिफरेंशिएट कर दिया उन्होंने. यह आध्यात्मिक दुख था उनको. क्या दुख था आध्यात्मिक? कि जब उन्होंने देखा एक बूढ़े व्यक्ति को, कि कहा मैं भी बूढ़ा हो जाऊंगा. तो चन्ना ने कहा, उनका जो सारथी था, हाँ आप भी बूढ़े होंगे. फिर एक रोगी व्यक्ति को देखा, कहा कि इसको जो बीमारी है ऐसा मैं भी हो सकता हूँ. कहा आप भी हो जाएंगे, सबको होता है रोग. फिर एक शव यात्रा जा रही थी, जनाजा जा रहा था, कहा ये कौन? तो राजकुमार थे, सिद्धार्थ थे, उन्होंने कभी इस तरह के दुख देखे नहीं, राजमहल में रहते थे. तो जब मृत व्यक्ति को देखा, जनाजा देखा, तो चन्ना से पूछा कि ये क्या? कहा कि व्यक्ति मर गया. कहा ये मृत्यु क्या होती है? कहा कि सबको ये दुनिया छोड़ के जाना है. तो सिद्धार्थ ने कहा कि मैं भी. कहा कि हाँ आप राजकुमार हैं तो क्या हुआ, मरना तो आपको भी है. तो उन्होंने कहा तब से क्या फायदा, मैं अगर 1000 साल भी राजा बनूंगा उसके बाद भी मरना ही है, मृत्युवानी है. तो इन दुखों से मुक्ति कैसे पाई जाए? So the only way is if you know the mystery of life and death, then you will be out of these sources. If you know the mystery of this material world, this physical world, then you will be out of all kinds of sorrow. This is called the moksha. This is called the salvation. Salvation is not to renunciate the world. to live in this world, to live in this society, but know the reality of this society and this transitory world. What Shankaracharya says, Brahm Satyam Jagat Mithya. So this is the illusionary world. So in that aspect, Adhyatmic dukkhas are the greater portions of life. These three types of dukkhas are there. In the same way, three types of gun are there, virtues are there, Sat, Rajas and Tamas. I think you all are acquainted with this very important terminology. And as I claimed in the very beginning, that at the end of this lecture, you all claim by yourself that these all things are acquainted with our day-to-day life. हम सब जानते हैं इन चीजों को. Or that is the purpose of Indian knowledge traditions. So whatever you know already, you just have to realize it. That in you is all perfection, as in the words of Vivekananda, in you is all perfection. But the true purpose of education is to manifestation of the perfection already in man. That is the main purpose of Indian knowledge traditions. Everybody is full of knowledge, is full of mystery, is full of philosophy. But the only ignorance is that we don't search the sources, the right sources through which we can excavate our own inner self. So this is the purpose of Indian knowledge tradition as well as philosophy. Three methods of learning, as Indian knowledge tradition says. This is also important terminology: Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasana. So in a single word, we can understand them. Shravan is basically listening. The teacher uses this method, and this is also the one of the methods of learning. Then Manan is whatever you have listened, you have to contemplate over it. You have to think it. In Arabic, there is a very important saying that if you just spend a few moments on thinking and brooding and meditation, it is better than the 60 years of worship. This is the statement of the Prophet. So Manan refers to the same thing. If you contemplate, if you meditate, if you think over whatever we have learned, even if you read a page in a day, and you contemplate whatever is written in that page, only in the one page, even in a line. In the same way, Nididhyasana, application of this thing. Meditation is something, but when you apply, Nididhyasana, it also implies the term. Meditation means when you apply this something.
नहीं प्राइम मिनिस्टर तो प्रेसिडेंट होता है, या प्रेसिडेंट नहीं तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर होता है. तो
ये है वो बांग्लादेश में जो हिस्सा है,
हाँ,
एक गधा लोग बंटवारा करके ये लोग भी चाह के निकाल दो, ये लोगों को, ये लोग को
शाहिद भाई म्यूट कर लीजिए.
जो पढ़े लिखे उनके मामले में,
शाहिद भाई,
जो हैसियत वाले मुसलमान थे ना, वो
शाहिद
सब
सर
चले गए.
म्यूट कर लीजिए.
गरीब था. यूपी में जितना बचाओ गरीब बचाओ, गरीब बचाओ, इसलिए जाहिल और गरीब बचाओ.
शाहिद सर म्यूट कर लीजिए. आप अपना माइक म्यूट कर लीजिए शाहिद सर.
Oh yes, okay. Some political discussion is going on. No issue. This is the beauty of Indian philosophy, that everybody is free to discuss whatever he likes it. So anyway, this is Nididhyasana. The last one is the application of whatever you have contemplated, whatever you have listened. These three are the methods of learning. Another important terminology is the three yoga. Three types of yoga. Basically, these three terms have been extracted from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna orients the three way to Arjun. How you can achieve the vicinity of God, what you call the अगर आप ईश्वर के करीब जाना चाहते हैं, तो how to achieve it, how to achieve the intimacy of God by way of three methods. वैदिक परसेप्शन क्या था? ओनली एसेटिसिज्म, संन्यास, आपको तपस्या करनी है. बुद्धिज्म का परसेप्शन क्या था? बुद्धिज्म का भी परसेप्शन नहीं था कि आप पेड़ के नीचे बैठ रहे हैं, आपने तपस्या की है 6 साल तक, महात्मा बुद्ध ने, उसके बाद उनको ज्ञान की प्राप्ति हुई. महावीर जैन का भी यही कॉन्सेप्ट था. लेकिन ड्यूरिंग द सेम पीरियड, इफ यू सी दैट इन श्रीमद् भागवत गीता, व्हाट लॉर्ड कृष्णा इज सेइंग, दैट इफ यू विश टू अचीव मी, Lord Krishna is the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, incarnation of God, the supreme deity. If you wish to achieve the intimacy of God, then you have the three ways. Any of the way you can follow. One is the karma by actions. If you just concentrate on your action, if you are doing your duties in a rightful way, then this may be the way to achieve your God. इसलिए आपने देखा होगा, मैंने शुरू में कहा था भारतीय दृष्टि क्या है. दुकान पे आप जाइए, वहां पर बोर्ड पे लिखा होता है ग्राहक ही देवता है. वो कर्म कर रहा है अपना, दुकानदार जो है वो अपना कर्म कर रहा है, और उस कर्म में वो इतना ज्यादा डेडिकेटेड है कि वो अपने कस्टमर को सर्व करने के लिए उसको ही देवता मान रहा है। और जब वो उसको देवता मान रहा है तो उसी डेडिकेशन के साथ उसको सर्व करेगा, उसके साथ वो धोखा नहीं करेगा। लिखा हुआ है, ये दृष्टि है। करता क्या है, दैट इज अनदर थिंग, लेकिन ये भारतीय दृष्टि है। दिस इज द इंडियन वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट द थिंग्स। ये कर्म सिद्धांत, ये कर्म योगा है, नॉट सिद्धांत, कर्म योगा, कि वो कर्म के माध्यम से योग कर रहा है। योग मतलब जोड़ रहा है अपने आप को ईश्वर से। अब दूसरा व्यक्ति है, कर्म नहीं कर सकता लेकिन हाँ पढ़ लिख सकता है, उसके पास मानसिक अ, जो है विद्वता ज्यादा है, तो वो ज्ञान के माध्यम से, लाइक स्टूडेंट्स, लाइक टीचर्स, दे आर ऑल इन द एरेना ऑफ नॉलेज। तो बाय वे ऑफ, अब एक स्टूडेंट है तो उसका धर्म भी यही है पढ़ना, और उसका कर्म भी यही है पढ़ना। तो अगर वो ज्ञान को प्राप्त करने में इतना डेडिकेट हो जाए तो उसके जरिए से ही वो उस सेल्वेशन को प्राप्त कर सकता है। वही टीचर का काम है। ऐसी भक्ति है कि if you cannot read, if you cannot do actions, then bhakti is, devotion is something, by way of submission, by way of humbleness in the behavior. So these three are the ways. साइकोलॉजी जो लोग पढ़ाते हैं, पढ़ते हैं, उनके लिए इस टर्म को समझना और भी ज्यादा आसान है, क्योंकि often I translate these terms in the three principles of psychology. Jnana is something which refers to the cognitive aspect of mind, cognition. Bhakti is something which is concerned with the affective aspect of mind, affective domain, cognitive domain, and karma is psychomotor domain. So by three ways you can achieve the salvation, you can achieve your targets. In that way, para and apara vidya we have already discussed, then mahavakyas and 6 pramans of knowledge. These 6 pramans are very important. I have just, I think, I will take 2-3 minutes more. Just I am winding up. Because my time is up to 5 p.m., I think. Yeah. Is it 5 p.m. or 5:15? Dr. Ashraf sir?
5:15, sir. 5:15.
5:15. Okay, that's it. That's it. So before 10 minutes, I will leave because some time for question answers, or otherwise, I have another lecture from 6 p.m. So Indian methods and knowledge, that is called the epistemology. Here, the slide is divided into 2 parts. First, on the right hand side, left hand side, you see. Indian methods and knowledge. Epistemology refers to ज्ञान मीमांसा जिसको आप कहते हैं, या जब हम बात ही कर रहे हैं इंडियन नॉलेज ट्रेडिशंस की, तो इंडियन मेथड्स क्या है उस नॉलेज को एक्वायर करने के, उस पर हमारा कंसंट्रेशन। आज का टॉपिक भी है, एक तो था टर्मिनोलॉजी जो हमने देखा, और दूसरा ये इंडियन मेथड्स है। टर्मिनोलॉजी में भी अभी कुछ चीजें आएंगी। तो एक तो ये कि ग्रेटर क्वेश्चंस एपिस्टेमोलॉजी के क्या है, ओराइजिन ऑफ नॉलेज, नॉलेज का ओराइजिन होता कैसे है, विच नॉलेज इज वैलिड, विच नॉलेज इज valid or invalid, place of experience in generating knowledge, because in Indian traditions almost all the knowledge is the outcome of the experience. Vedas are the experiential knowledge, because Vedas were not composed by any human being, it is belief. So how did they recite those verses? Because they were sitting, the rishis were sitting in the deep meditation, and in that state they realized the truth. So out of their spiritual experience, whatever they uttered, that came to be known as the Vedas. That's why it was listened by the later period or their disciples, and they composed it. And that came to be known as the Shruti literature. So experience का knowledge में बहुत important role होता है. Out of your experience you generate some knowledge. And this experience, philosophy में जिसे experience कहते हैं, उसी को science में experiment कहते हैं. Only the difference between philosophy and science is that whatever you try to find out, your method is experience, in philosophy and in religion, both. But whatever you try to find out, your method is experiment in laboratory or in the greater laboratory of nature. You do this experiment. एक साइंटिस्ट जो है वो अपनी आर्टिफिशियल लैब में उसका एक्सपेरिमेंट करता है कुछ इंस्ट्रूमेंट से, और एक फिलोसफर जो है वो ग्रेटर नेचर की जो लेबोरेटरी उसमें एक्सपीरियंस करता है चीजों को, और दोनों एक ही आउटकम के ऊपर पहुंचते हैं ऑलमोस्ट। रिलीजन भी इन बिटवीन है। आइंस्टाइन ने एक बहुत अच्छी बात कही थी कि विदाउट रिलीजन science is blind and without science religion is lame. ये कहा था कि रिलीजन जो है वो साइंस और इसके बिना अधूरा है. साइंस रिलीजन दोनों का इंटैक्ट रिलेशनशिप है. Then third one is place of reason in generating knowledge. Reasoning is very important aspect. Right from the very beginning in Indian traditions, reasoning played its very important role. Reasoning doesn't mean that it originated only with Francis Bacon in 16th century in his book Novum Organum. लॉजिकल डिडक्शन या एरिस्टोटल का साइलोजिज्म है, वहां से बहुत पहले न्याय फिलॉसफी में, भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा में जो न्याय फिलॉसफी है गौतम की, वहां पर साइलोजिज्म हमें देखने को मिलता है. आगे हम देखेंगे 6 प्रमाण जो आ रहे हैं उसमें देखेंगे. तो रीजनिंग का नॉलेज जनरेशन में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल होता है. एंड फोर्थ वन इज द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन नॉलेज एंड एरर. एवरी नॉलेज इज नॉट डिवाइड ऑफ, एनी नॉलेज इज नॉट डिवाइड ऑफ एरर. तो दैट्स वाई इंडियन नॉलेज ट्रेडिशंस में एरर की भी कल्पना की गई है कि किसी भी ज्ञान में एरर हो सकता है और उस एरर को कंसीडर करते हुए हम नॉलेज को वैलिड और इनवैलिड करार देते हैं. तो दैट्स वाई इन जैन फिलॉसफी नो नॉलेज इज एब्सोल्यूट नॉलेज. दिस इज द इंडियन assumptions और इंडियन postulation कि नो नॉलेज इज एब्सोल्यूट नॉलेज, एवरी नॉलेज इज रिलेटिव. और जैन फिलॉसफी में इसको सियादवाद कहा जाता है कि if somebody is saying something, it may be his or her perspective, but from the perspective of others, that fact may be different. जैसे आप कहते हैं कि the sun rises in the east, that's a fact for a grammarian. English literature में या English grammar में normally a teacher teaches a student that universal truth cannot be changed in when you are converting a student from direct speech to indirect speech. अगर आपने कहा कि द सन राइजेस इन द ईस्ट, द टीचर सेज सन राइजेस इन द ईस्ट, अब इसको कन्वर्ट कीजिए. द टीचर सेड दैट सन राइजेस इन द ईस्ट, सन रोज इन द ईस्ट नहीं होगा. तो पूछेंगे क्यों? तो टीचर कहेगा बिकॉज यूनिवर्सल फैक्ट कैन नॉट बी चेंज्ड एंड द सन राइजेस इन द ईस्ट इज अ यूनिवर्सल फैक्ट. उसने नॉलेज को एब्सोल्यूट कर दिया. बट आस्क फ्रॉम अ साइंटिस्ट whether sun rises in the east, scientist will say this is one of the greatest false. ये सबसे बड़ा झूठ है. Because sun doesn't rise in the east. Sun is at the center and all the planets are revolving around the sun. From where he is rising, from where he is sinking, nobody knows. These are just the fallacy. They are all the misleading statements. So from scientist point of view, the same statement is wrong. And from a grammarian point of view, the statement is a universal fact, universal truth. So that's why knowledge is always relative. You can say that glass is full of water. Anybody can say that glass is not full of water. So this is the perception, in what way he is describing, in what way you are describing the things. A scientist can say it is just the H2O. Another person may say that it's a water, it's a liquid, it's something else. So in that way, error is always, there's always possibility of error. Changing forms of knowledge that arises from new conceptualization of the world. Indian epistemology is characterized that always new knowledge is welcome. Always new knowledge is additive element to the existing knowledge. और इसी को जो philosophical traditions हैं, right hand side में अब आप देखिए, जिसको अधिकरण कहते हैं, कि जैसे एक पुरानी नॉलेज है तो वो चूंकि एब्सोल्यूट नहीं है, रिलेटिव है, और नई नॉलेज उसमें आकर के ऐड होगी, तो पुरानी नॉलेज को पहले डिस्कार्ड किया जाएगा, उसके बाद नई नॉलेज ऐड होगी. तो ये जो पूरा प्रोसेस होता है एपिस्टेमोलॉजी का, इसको अधिकरण कहते हैं, युक्ति कहते हैं, या मेथड्स कहते हैं, जिसकी हम बात शुरू में कर रहे थे. तो ये जो एक्सिजेटिकल फॉर्मेट है, इट इज कॉल्ड द अधिकरण, which comprises of a five-fold process. What is this five-fold process? One is the विषय वाक्य, noting the scriptural sentence and the discussion. मतलब जिस चीज का डिस्कशन करना है, पहले आप उस स्टेटमेंट को नोट कर लीजिए. जैसे आपने डिस्कशन में क्या चीज लेकर आना है कि द सन राइजेस इन द ईस्ट, तो ये हो गया विषय वाक्य. अब इस वाक्य के ऊपर हम डिस्कशन करेंगे. समस्या, फॉर्मुलेटिंग द डाउट एज टू द करेक्ट एंड रेलेवेंट मीनिंग ऑफ द सेंटेंस. तो इस समस्या को, जैसे हाइपोथेसिस होता है, तो इस तरह से वी जस्ट पुट इट एज ए प्रॉब्लम. Many of you, I think, are holding a position in your universities and colleges who are doing the researches or supervising the researches in to your PG students or your PhD students, तो वहां पर आप उनसे कहते हैं कि आपकी PhD का टॉपिक क्या है, तो वो स्टूडेंट आपको PhD का टॉपिक बताते हैं. When you formulate this topic and you write this topic in your thesis, actual draft of your thesis, वहां पर आप टॉपिक ऑफ PhD नहीं लिखते हैं, वहां पर आप लिखते हैं कि प्रॉब्लम अंडर स्टडी. एक्चुअली ये प्रॉब्लम टॉपिक का ही नाम है, तो वहां पर प्रॉब्लम कहते हैं. अब देखिए एजुकेशनल जो एटिकेट्स हैं, रिसर्च जो एटिकेट्स हैं, वहां पर प्रॉब्लम वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है जो डे टू डे लाइफ में आप कहते हैं कि हमें एक प्रॉब्लम है या मुझे सर में दर्द की प्रॉब्लम है या कोई और समस्या है. दैट समस्या, द मीनिंग ऑफ दैट समस्या, वर्ड समस्या इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम व्हाट यू आर यूजिंग इन योर एजुकेशनल एटिकेट्स. So here research problem refers to this second point, samasya. This is the research problem upon which you are going to conduct a debate. You are going to observe the data. You are going to analyze the data. You are going to reach some solutions. This is called the research problem. That is called samasya. Third one is the purva paksha. That's very important terminology in Indian knowledge traditions. Purva paksha is whatever is already the existing knowledge. Presentation of the unsound interpretation, the objector or the opposing schools. Purva paksha is, for example, you have one point of view and you are putting together the point of view of the others who are your opponent. So opponent's point of view is known as the purva paksha. Just as somebody is saying that sun does not rise in the east. So this is the purva paksha for you from your point of view. And you say that sun rises in the east. This is Purva Paksha from other's point of view, because for other person, you are his opponent and that person is your opponent. So Purva Paksha is the knowledge of the opponent or opponent's point of view. And Uttar Paksha, after the discussion, after the arguments, after the dialogues, the conclusion, what you reached, that is called the Uttar Paksha. The refutation of the former position and presentation of the reasoned interpretation. If you are able to, because you are holding the view that the sun rises in the east, and you defeat your opponent who is saying that the sun does not rise in the east, if you defeat with some arguments, then whatever you establish, that will be known as the Uttar Paksha. And the Nirnay is the conclusion. So these five are the Adhikaran, five are the methods or yuktis through which a knowledge is established in Indian knowledge tradition. This is epistemological. Now in terminology in philosophical arguments, you see this is the Purva Paksha and Uttar Paksha. It is written here in detailed form. I will try to share this this entire slide so that you may read it in detailed form with references. 4 factors involved in knowledge. These 4 factors are very important part of terminology in Indian knowledge traditions. The figure what you see are the general sources of knowledge, what we often consider in our day-to-day life. One is sometimes we take knowledge from authorities, like what church says, what mosque says, what temple says, what Bible says, what Quran says. Or sometimes we take knowledge from the authorities like political authorities, what government says, only that is knowledge. For example, this time what government is saying, we are considering it is IKS. But you have all the liberty whether to believe it or you don't believe it on the basis of this Indian knowledge traditions. Faith, what religious scripture says, many people are of the view that we don't go with this source of knowledge. Whatever scripture says, they may not be the absolute knowledge. Galileo challenged the Bible. बाइबल में लिखा था कि अर्थ इज द सेंटर ऑफ यूनिवर्स. गैलीलियो ने चैलेंज किया, कोपरनिकस ने चैलेंज किया और साइंस ने एस्टैब्लिश किया कि नो, अर्थ इज नॉट द सेंटर ऑफ नॉलेज. तो फेथ वाज आल्सो चैलेंज्ड. इंस्टीट्यूशन, intuition, not institution. Intuition is your inference, what you imagine, that may be the source of knowledge. In the same way, senses, the perceptual knowledge, what you sense, what you perceive with the help of your 5 sense organs, and then reasoning on the basis of logic. So these 4 are the basic factors which are involved in knowledge. One is the subject who knows, that is Parmata. If I know, I am Parmata. If you know, you are Parmata. That is the subject. And object of knowledge, what I perceive, what you perceive. For example, I am perceiving a mobile phone. So this is the pramay and I am Parmata. The object of knowledge is pramay, what is visualized, and who is visualizing is Parmata. Then the means of valid knowledge, through which I receive that knowledge. If I am using my eyes, so eyes are the Praman. If I am closing my eyes and I'm holding a mobile with the help of my hands, so my hands are Praman. That my hand can sense, my hand can feel it that it's a mobile phone, or whether it's a cup of tea, or whether it's the keypad, or whether it's the watch. So I can hold any object in my hand, then hand would be called as Praman. The resultant of valid knowledge is Prama. Whatever knowledge we receive through this process is known as the Prama. So these four factors are involved in knowledge: Pramata, Pramay, Praman, and Prama. Then again you see this Prama or this Praman, the third one is Praman, are basically 6 in Indian knowledge traditions. These 6 Pramans are the basis of Indian pedagogy or Indian methods, how to teach one truth, many perceptions. Well, one truth is there in Indian knowledge tradition. This is from one of the Upanishads. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Truth is one, but the realized address it is in various ways. And many people, the men of letters, men of intellectuals, they realize the same knowledge in different perceptions, different ways. So Satya to ek hi hai, Bahuda Vadanti, that may be interpreted in different ways. These different ways also involve some validation sources. So these validity sources are 6. They are called as the 6 pramans, evidences of knowledge in different schools. सांख्य एंड योग 3 प्रमाण को एक्सेप्ट करते हैं: परसेप्शन, इन्फ्लुएंस, टेस्टिमनी. न्याय और वैशेषिक जो है वो 4 प्रमाण मानते हैं. मीमांसा और वेदांता, ये स्कूल्स ऑफ फिलॉसफी हैं, वो 6 प्रमाण मानते हैं. और बुद्धिज्म सिर्फ 2 प्रमाण को मानता है, परसेप्शन एंड इन्फ्लुएंस. और चारवाक सिर्फ एक ही प्रमाण मानता है, दैट इज परसेप्शन. सो इन दैट वे ये ब्रैकेट में मैंने लिखा हुआ है, इसको आप देख सकते हैं. परसेप्शन मीन्स वट एवर यू डायरेक्ट परसीव, लेकिन विद द हेल्प ऑफ सेंस ऑर्गन्स, इसको डायरेक्ट नॉलेज कहते हैं. आंखों से देखा डायरेक्ट नॉलेज है. लेकिन जैन फिलॉसफी ये कहता है कि वट एवर यू परसीव विद द हेल्प ऑफ योर सेंस ऑर्गन्स, दैट इज नॉट डायरेक्ट नॉलेज. डायरेक्ट मीन्स इमीडिएट, है ना, but it is the mediate knowledge. It is not immediate knowledge, because eyes are the mediator. If you are listening some music, your ears are the mediator. So it is not immediate. Immediate means where there should be no mediator in between. So perception is not the direct knowledge. Perception is indirect knowledge. Through sense organs you are realizing. So Jain philosophy talks about the 5 types of sources of knowledge: Mati, Shruti, Avadhi, Mana, Pariyaya, and Kavalya. Kavalya is a knowledge which is received without any source, without any mediator. So Kavalya is the direct knowledge, not the perception. So in that way, because of the time paucity, I'm not going into the detailed aspect of this one. Inference is Anuman. There is a syllogism, comes from the Nyaya philosophy on the basis of Anuman, means what you just see one object and you put the piece of knowledge on the basis of your perception. Then Shabda, testimony, that is of 2 kinds, Vedic or secular, means Vedas are considered as the testimony. Shabda Praman, whatever is written or somebody is authority saying something, it is the testimony, the source of knowledge, that who says this one. And if some Socrates is saying something, so it is right because it is said by the Socrates. Vedas are saying something, it's right. So testimony means Shabda Praman, whatever has been written or said. Then comparison, you just compare one thing to another thing, and on that basis you just drive to the conclusion. Non-apprehension, Anuplabdhi, whatever is not present because of the absence of someone, you reach to the conclusion that what should be. So this is called the Anuplabdhi, and another is the postulation is also there, the 6th one is there. Now, I'm skipping these slides are there, Nuban Chatushtai. Only this I will discuss. Panch Mahabhutas, we all are acquainted with this terminology. Panch Mahabhutas basically refers to the 5 elements which are responsible for the creation of this world. Akash, Vayu, Tej, water or Prithvi. Then they are existing in our physical body in that way, symbolically. Then Panch Mahakosha, they refer to the 5 repositories of knowledge in human body: Annamay, Pranmay, Manomay, Vigyanmay, Anandamay. And then you see that the entire body is conceptualized in knowledge traditions in 3 parts. One is the physical body, another is the subtle body, that is emotional aspects, and causal body, that is the spiritual side, Atma, Manas, and Sharir. These are the 3 parts of the human body. And on that basis, you see that how they are related. That Annamay Kosh and Annamay Kosh is considered with the physical body, that is Sthul Dev. Pranmay, Manomay, and Vigyanmay Kosh are considered with the subtle body, that is emotional body. And Anandamay Kosh is considered with Karan Dev, that is causal body, or the spiritual body. And Panch Pran, these are, Pran refers to basically the Vayu, the oxygen, the inhale or exhale system of body. So on the basis of direction of oxygen in our body, there are 5 types of directions: Pran, Apan, Udan, Saman, and Gyanan. They are all the very common terms. We are all acquainted with that. So with this discussion, I'm just ending my traces of pedagogy and just this the last slide. These are the 3 books, very important books, where you can find all such discussion. What I tried to present before you, these are the 3 very authentic books: The Educational System of the Ancient Hindus by Santosh Kumar Das, Ancient Indian Education, Brahmanic and Buddhist by Radha Kumar Mukherjee, and Education in Ancient India, A.S. Altekar. So in these 3 books, you will find all this discussion in very detailed form with examples, with anecdotes, and so on. These are the 3 authentic sources out of which I have excavated all such things like basic epistemological method, sadhan, chatushtay, panch mahakosh, illustrations from the Upanishads, and so on. So coming towards the end, these are the stories, actually, dialogues, or the dialogism, you can say, the debates or the storytelling. These are all other methods apart from those things what we have discussed. Upanishads have presented in very deeper way. So thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you, sir. That was very enlightening and interesting topic.
Yeah, yeah. Because of the time paucity, I have to conclude it. Some slides.
Yes, sir. I can see you have left so many slides.
Yeah. That's why. Because I am already running late by 4 minutes, so I have to conclude.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
मैं चाहूंगा कि जल्द सब लोग जो लोग भी अपना डाउट्स पूछना चाहते हैं या कुछ क्वेरी है वो
If you have any questions, otherwise you may note down my email, and I'm always available for any cause of education anytime. So you may contact me through emails. My phone number is also with the Ashraf Saab, and you may also contact me.
आपकी सीवी भी अवेलेबल है वेबसाइट पर, उस वहां जाकर भी आपका email ID.
Yeah, email ID is also there. I will also try to share this slide.
Okay, sir. You share this on our WhatsApp group, sir.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I will share it with some modifications. So thank you very much. I think I should
Thank
leave.
you, sir. Sir, that was very. Anyone want to ask any question?
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Udham Singh, please. Sir,
yes.
I think there is no question from the participants.
Okay.
So, on behalf of all the participants, I extend my sincere gratitude and thanks to you for your enlightening lecture. You gave us the idea and concept of Indian knowledge system.
Yes.
Sir, you have explained so many terminologies that is prerequisite to understand the Indian knowledge system. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
God bless you all. Thanks a lot.
Participants, we will be meeting at 5:40. Udham ji. हेलो उधम सर कुछ बोल रहे थे? So we will be meeting at 5:45 and on the second link that is shared on the